10 man represents the safety distance between parachuting in from the modern day air defence, safest to air missiles, etc. drop us in behind enemy lines so that we can tap in, take whatever objective.
Alright y'all, welcome back to Common Arms channel. Okay, so today we are revisiting P Company for the British Army Paras. Now, I've checked out P Company a while back, but that was like a very early reaction video from like, it must have been like over 2 years ago. So I think that video did a pretty good job of explaining P Company and sort of some of the fitness tests associated with it. Now, from what I can tell, the Paras are definitely like on the same sort of like wavelength as what I would picture whenever I think of like properly training a good infantry element, because they really do things right as far as like they do the milling and whatnot. They really instill that violence, which I think is very crucial, and instilling that violence but also maintaining the camaraderie really adds a lot of like separation and takes that infantryman to the next level, I think. So today we're checking out the beginning of a 4-part series by Mike Thwaite is a YouTube channel, but it's titled Pegasus Company Episode 1. So I didn't even know P Company. I didn't know it stood for Pegasus Company, so I guess that's something else that we're learning already. But this first episode is about 14 minutes long. I'm not sure if I'm going to be reacting to all the different parts of this 4-part series. I guess it depends on how often, or you know, the space in between these episodes getting uploaded. But I'm excited to check out this first episode. Seems like it's pretty good quality, so let's do it. And that's a nice shot right there.
The Parachute Regiment provides the capability to deploy an infantry force at short notice in the vanguard of operations and the most demanding of circumstances. Paratroopers have two unique roles. They are trained and ready to form the spearhead of the Army's rapid intervention capability, and they are the integral part of the United Kingdom's Special Forces.
That was a lot of officers.
We're not assessing fitness, but what we are assessing is mental robustness. What I mean by this is anybody can be fit, but can anybody carry a log and go deep and stay in the red zone for 20 minutes, sub 20 minutes on a 2-mile best effort? Just like an operations, previous experience, and many of the team that have been through it, if someone's injured, are they willing to go that extra little bit just to save the life of another soldier?
Again, so these instructors having that sort of mentality goes a lot to say what the, you know, the finishing product is going to look like. If these instructors are looking for that, they're looking for that sort of capability and that capacity for what they're talking about, I think, of course, it's going to show on the back end whenever you actually see these people making it through P Company. Now, he's talking about red zone. I'm not exactly sure what he's referring to, if he's talking about like the combat application, like someone's in like a red state or their gray states, or if he's referring to like a VO2 max where someone's at a certain heart rate and they're just able to maintain that. So I'm not exactly sure. They might say some things like that I'm not picking up on. So if you guys could assist with that, I would appreciate it.
When I'm looking at them, I'm not looking for the loudest on the log, and we're looking, you know, for the one who's grafting, putting the effort in, making sure that toggle's tight. You know, anyone can gob off. It's about actually doing the business and getting that log forward. Same going into a platoon section attack, you know, looking for that Joe, Tom, who's cutting around, you know, doing the 2IC role, just not shouting, being a DS watcher.
Okay, okay, so he's using a lot of lingo, and I think I'm picking up on most of it, but he's basically saying like we're trying to look for the person that's actually about it, and not the person that's like pretending to be about it. But yeah, I remember you guys telling me 2IC is the second in command, so like a Lance Corporal or something. So I am reading the comments. I do appreciate you guys adding in that effort, but holy cow, I need to translate this.
It's about doing the job, but also having the humility and being humble at the same time.
Absolutely. All right. The snow on the ground, already miserable.
It's day 1 of test week. The para recruits, or Joe as they're known by the para directing staff, have just completed 20 weeks of training at Depot Para at the Infantry Training Centre, Catterick.
Okay.
P Company, as it's known, is a week of arduous events designed to test physical and mental suitability, and to see if Joe has what it takes to join the ranks of the Parachute Regiment.
What was that big stick he was carrying in the front?
So I'm Corporal 1, instructor at Para Depot. At the minute we're taking a Primus platoon through their training.
So I think P Company is an essential part of what we do in training at the depot and the regiment, in the service within the regiment, and then also the wider brigade. I believe that paratroopers are made in the depot, but the P Company at week 20 is an essential part of putting that pressure on them and really seeing their mental state.
So I always pictured it as P Company was like some initial thing that you would have to get through before you actually got into the paras, but it seems like they're saying there was like a 20-week actual like airborne infantry sort of training where most of the formation and most of the weeding out is done. So I'm not really familiar with that. I guess that they're using P Company to actually weed out even further to make sure that you have the most solid guys actually getting into the paras. So, okay, it was definitely different from what I initially pictured. Again, if I have that wrong, let me know.
Obviously, throughout training in the depot, us as instructors spend a lot more time with them than the P Company staff do, and we put them in tests in difficult situations. But I think P Company, because it's so well structured and it's steeped in such history, in parachute regiment history, that it really has an effect on the Joe and separates the wheat from the chaff, men from the boys.
Nice. That's a good way of putting it. That makes sense.
I always had the intention of joining the military, like from a young age, whether it's a paras or not. Weren't like decided till like last year. I had a friend that joined the paras and he persuaded me.
Obviously, joined at a young age. I just came straight from school, knew that I wanted to join the parachute regiment. At 15, I applied to join the army and went to AFC Harrogate, so I took a different route to some of the other lads.
I always wanted to join the military when I was younger, but I was never fit enough. And I had a load of mates that joined the parachute regiment and told me all the stuff they got up to. And then when lockdown came in, I stopped drinking, started training.
I forgot about the lockdown, man.
I studied at Harvard
That's kind of interesting to see how the lockdown is affecting like troops who are just getting into the military. I didn't really consider that. I mean, I guess if you get like laid off for your job or things are just getting tough, it would be a good like opportunity, especially to get in shape and really focus on something. It was like a forced like New Year's resolution.
Lost stuff for 3 years, studied shell conditioning. I graduated last summer, and then as soon as I graduated, I sent my application off to join the paras.
Well, I decided to join the parachute regiment. I've always loved being outdoors, exercise, like hiking, and the excitement and sort of the adventure of the parachute appealed to me. And I always knew I wanted to join the army. And once I became old enough to sort of do my research, learn about it, I knew the parachute regiment was for me being the fittest, the most elite, the best soldiers, always on the forefront of every battle and every war.
Right. I can appreciate that mindset.
80 years.
My mates told me that coming to depot you'd be built up by the training team, so you start with like really basic sort of fitness stuff, and then they'll build you up and mould you into what they want you to be.
Before you,
it's like the Marine Corps.
You constantly like you hear about people getting injured and getting smashed into the fids, but it's so gradual throughout training. That's why like injuries are so minimal, and like you don't do a 10 mile until you're like 5 weeks away from P Company.
So what he's talking about there is a really good point. Like a lot of people think, especially like I thought whenever I was actually trying to join the military, is you would just get forced into these really arduous, long duration exercises or tests right from the start. I mean, in Marine Corps boot camp, you don't really hike more than, 12 miles, but you start off really, really light. I mean, if you just have a really heavy backpack and you haven't been like backpacking or hiking or anything like that, if you have a heavy backpack on your back for the first time, it's going to like just destroy you just standing there. But actually walking and actually increasing that distance really makes it a lot easier to condition your body. And it can happen a lot quicker. You can go from hiking 2 miles, not really being used to that, to going to 12 miles easily within, a month and a half or even 2 months. So what he's saying is very, very true. You don't just get destroyed from the start, because then you're going to get injured. They need to make it gradual. So it's a lot easier than a lot of people expect. It's not necessarily going to be you just getting your legs obliterated and all of a sudden you can't walk for like a month.
Even then, I've only done 2 so far, so it builds you the constant confidence throughout training to when it actually comes to crunch time at P Company, you've really, it's an achievable goals, you've done it before.
I wouldn't say you need to be super fit to come, but you definitely need to prepare yourself on Super Street and get yourself to a good level of fitness, and then the training team will
He seems
do what they want with you.
A lot older than the rest.
I sort of did my research. I knew you sort of get built up, you get turned into the soldier that every paratrooper's expected to be. One of the biggest issues was I thought you had to come here at the fitness standard required for
right.
times, which is obviously completely unrealistic. You can't get power fit without being in the Power Depot doing the training.
That's funny, parafit.
So I spent a lot of time like doing loads of phase thinking I had to get to the standard, which obviously it's ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure.
So when we're running alongside a log and I'm sort of looking at the Joes, it's not me who's running peak company as an assessor, but in a sense I am assessing them throughout their training in the depot. I'm writing weekly reports and sort of looking at the Joe and trying to evaluate them and see their weak points and try to improve them, train in rather than select out. But during the P company, especially on some of the hard events, log, stretcher, it's a good chance for me to see my recruits I've been training in sort of like a different light, and I get to essentially take a step back and then see the pressure that's been applied to them. So I think whenever
that's pretty cool. Yeah, as an instructor, it's nice to be able to like teach someone, but when you've been with like a certain group for a long time, it's nice to be able to have somebody else run it through them, and then you step back a little bit to see if they're doing everything that you train them to, if they're maintaining everything to the standard that you taught them. And I don't know, it allows you to get a different perspective of how they're operating, and you can start focusing on different things because you're not actively focused on, running the event or the training or what have you. And that's the good thing about having these sorts of series and documentaries where you have the instructors actually talking, is you can get a different perspective from the other side and not just from the recruits that are going through it.
The sort of key attributes that we're looking for is sort of like really that mental toughness. Some of the events are short and punchy, and there's a good variety of events. Unlike the commando test where there's only a slack handful, we have quite a large number, which allows us to
shots fired.
Ways, and it really highlights, in different aspects, sort of mental toughness when the chips are down and you've given everything, your ability to carry on. And I think there's a few events maybe sometimes highlight that more than others. I think log and milling, for example, really shows someone's mental fortitude and ability to carry
the milling is so good.
Under pressure. And
Big
the
fan.
team events as well show them that they work for each other. Sometimes you'll see people who have just had enough and with physical and mental pressures too much and pull themselves off. And that is absolutely not what we want serving for the parachute regiment and the wider brigade.
We're on day one of P Company today. This morning we got the 10 miler loaded march. So it's 10 miles with a £35 Bergen plus water on top of that. So it comes in about £37. And then you're carrying a rifle, which is another £9.
The rifle makes a difference.
Obviously you have your pre-P Company nerves. Anyone that says they don't, I might think they're going to be lying. But as the 10 miler itself, I'm feeling quite confident because leading up to P Company, you built up over the 20 weeks. So you start from low numbers and build up to a 10 miler. And as a squad, we've already done 3 collective 10 milers.
Okay,
so
that makes a lot of sense.
Just turning up on the day and getting it done.
I feel pretty confident about the events today. We've done them plenty of times in training under more
tall is that
adverse
dude?
Scenarios. Less sleep, more tired, more fatigued muscles. So going into it quite well rested.
All right,
so I'm feeling pretty confident today.
Yeah, getting some rest in is nice. I'm not sure if that's going to be the same for all of these events. They might start using the compiling like pressure or physical strain from the previous events to sort of test you more. But like they were saying, being able to do that type of event previously really helps with your confidence because, it might not necessarily be the same stipulations as far as like the same pace or even like maybe the same terrain, but having the experience of doing that before, how to set up your pack, how to do certain things, because if you just go into something and it's the first time, all of a sudden like your sling is rubbing you a certain way and it's getting to your head, or your rifle is just like kicking your ass, or it's just in like a really awkward position. It's nice to be able to get some reps in beforehand so you can work out all that annoying little stuff.
The 10 miler, it's a big one for the parachute regiment because tabbing's their bread and butter, and like the rest of the army, we do a lot of it. And then after the 10 miler, we got the trainasium, which is how they test us working to command at height. So in the trainasium, there's a rat race. We have to run over the seesaw. And you have to run around the trainasium and finish off by landing on the cargo net. Then you got the 60-foot high shuffle bars.
Yep. We've seen the people afraid of heights.
A small lug, and then you get told to touch your toes, and then continue. And then there's the illusion jump. And then the Superman jumps out of play for this big company to be repaired. So that'll be all.
Snap.
I feel confident going into the events because we've done them all before, but I'm also nervous because it's P Company and it's a different entity of staff that will be testing us today.
Yeah, they're going to be looking for different things probably.
I definitely feel ready. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I feel like the training 100% has prepared you for this week. They say it's the best week of training, so we'll see.
All right. Hell yeah. The headgear is definitely interesting compared to like US headgear.
With moments to go until the start of the 10-mile Tactical Advance to Battle, or TAB as it's known in the Army, the Para DS subject the recruits to a spot check to ensure Joe has the correct kit and equipment stipulated to him on the packing list.
Yep, weigh all the rocks, there you go.
After that, it's time to get their Bergens weighed to check they've got the correct weight for the test. The 10-miler is used to simulate moving from the drop zone or helicopter landing site at speed to an objective and is the benchmark test for the United Kingdom's airborne forces.
3, 2, 1, turn to face your right.
Man, you know their adrenaline is freaking pumping. That feeling when your stomach just drops whenever you actually start the event.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
So Joe's about to step off on day 1 of test week in the 10-miler. Quite an arduous route, multi-terrain, plenty of hills involved there as well.
Yes. I was waiting to see one of those mustaches.
The safety distance between parachuting in from the modern day air defence, safest to air missiles, etc. drop us in behind enemy lines so that we can tap in, take whatever objective or RV at whatever objective we need to.
God. Look at this. I remember, that actually reminds me of something. When I was in 10th Mountain, we had, I don't know, it's just like some night movement. We were moving to contact or something, about to do some sort of mission. But there was a road with like some sort of grate like this, and I guess the grates got pushed open just enough for like someone's foot to go through. So I was walking, and all of a sudden my foot slipped in between these grates without touching anything. And miraculously, my knee didn't like, you know, slam the side of the grate or anything like that. So I'm walking, and all of a sudden one leg is just like all the way in the ground, and the person behind me was just like, where did this dude just go? He just disappeared in front of me. Yeah, so that's just what it reminded me of. That's kind of sketchy.
Me too.
All right, damn. You need to have a tight freaking ruck if you're going to be running, especially. And you need to like secure the straps so they're not getting loose too.
Stand by. Go!
Dude, running with a freaking ruck is brutal. Like a 3-mile like straight run or jog with a backpack is brutal. Alright, so they're getting some time to adjust
Halfway
their
through the
packs.
test and the paras get a 2-minute water stop. This is an opportunity to take on fluid and fuel to keep their energy levels up. With the DS keeping a close eye on time, it's important that they work as a team and look after each other before stepping off again.
Yeah, their rocks all look pretty freaking solid.
30 seconds.
And that's another thing, it's just having the discipline to secure your gear properly means a lot for an infantry element. When you see people that are walking around with like sagging rucksacks and stuff with loose straps, it looks like crap, and you know they're not very disciplined.
Listen, stand by. Go! React!
Now, I will say it is like super encouraging to have those instructors with you. Like when you have the people that have been there and done that. I mean, of course they don't like have the rifles. It might not necessarily be the same exact thing as what you're doing, but when they're simulating it pretty much like identically, and they've been there and done that, and they, you know, they've already proven themselves, but now they're doing this with you. It's super encouraging. And for me, whenever that happens, or if I'm being tested like that and I have the instructors that are actually leading it in the front, that really like makes it so much easier to stay up with the group. Like falling out like this and seeing the instructors all the way up here is definitely not the move. So a really, really big motivator. Yeah, terrain definitely isn't that forgiving, but
one of the 16 that
weather
have come
looks
off
nice.
is Private Cooper, who has not scored well on this event. The pressure is now on.
Oh
He
yeah,
needs
you
to
don't want
stay
that.
focused and do well in the other events if he wants to be in with a chance of passing P Company and serving in the Paras.
Yeah, a few more than what we anticipated. Not bad overall. Give them a bit of a G up now. Obviously we lost 16 there, so I give them a bit of a chat at the end. Just make sure they know it's not the end of the line. There is still a chance. However, they've got to put the right on the back. There you go, 1 out of 50, bang on. Right, Joe, listen in. Those of you that stayed with the pack there.
That's impressive, man. That is like good freaking pace.
For the rest of the week, that's exactly where you need to be. We started off strong, looking good. However, just remember now, that's the basic 10 miler for the rest of your careers if you are to progress into the parachute regiment. Everyone understand? Yeah! Good.
Nice. Oh
10 miles, 1 hour 50.
You know they're feeling good now.
Not a bad effort by Joe. Majority of them stuck with it. It is a hard route, so it definitely puts them to the test.
Fantastic mustache.
So I just finished the 10 miler. It was just like normal, apart from this time at the end my legs started to cramp, which is something that usually happens. So the last half a mile for me was a massive struggle, but I stuck with it and I got 10 points, so I'm looking forward to the next event.
Alright, good stuff. Again, it's that pushing through, man.
Now we look forward to Trinesium, which will be the next event. Should be shortly after this.
Doesn't seem as bad physically, the Trinesium.
It ain't the end of P company for me. I've got the Trinesium next, I need to crack that out past that. And it's time 20 miler, and it's P company ain't over for me yet.
Alright, that's a good attitude for sure. I gotta say, failing something or like, you know, having the spotlight on you is not a good feeling. Major. Oh, okay. So he's a major.
Don't realise while they've gone through tests is that this is the minimum standard for the parachute regiment and airborne forces. Everything gets longer, faster, and harder from here. This could be classed as a job interview to get your foot through the door.
Okay,
your work starts when you reach the unit.
All right. So again, having that sort of spotlight on you, especially like as you're still going through the training, is never going to be a good thing. But it really shows the sort of personnel that actually go into these sorts of job fields or try and get into these kinds of units. Having that sort of mentality where, you know, you might not necessarily be doing the best, or you might be sort of on like the bottom of the roster right now, but keeping the attitude like, okay, I know I'm not doing too great, but we have this event next. I'll do whatever I can to make sure that I'm prepared for that, you know, physically, stretching and what have you, and then giving that maximum effort. As long as you're constantly giving the maximum effort, there's a lot of people that will like, you know, pretend like they're giving maximum effort, or they want people to like feel sorry for themselves, and they kind of like shows. It's very obvious from an instructor perspective when people really aren't giving that maximum effort, when they're kind of just feeling really sorry for themselves. So I think these instructors are very used to that, and they're very keyed on, and they can identify that pretty quickly. So it's all about bouncing back and then giving maximum effort on the next thing, not just letting that, you know, compiling, you know, spotlight effect mess with you for the next event. So it really goes to separate these sorts of individuals from the traditional infantry or, you know, any other conventional forces or what have you. But I'm very excited to see the rest of this series. Again, not exactly sure if I'm going to do a reaction. I probably just, it's going to end up, you know, with a timing or a scheduling kind of thing. But I will definitely check out the rest of these episodes. I'll put the original video in the description so you guys can check it out and, you know, follow the series for yourself. But again, really solid quality, and having the perspective from the recruits and the instructors gets rid of a lot of that ambiguity or just like mystery associated with these sorts of things. It's making it very open, and it's, you know, showing you it's definitely going to be tough, but this is a sort of mentality you need to have going into something like this. But these guys definitely seem like they were prepared, and yeah, it's a pretty cool training pipeline. So I like seeing how these things sort of go down and how the mentality sort of shifts whenever they're going into something like P Company, different from the depot that they're talking about. But that is it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching. I will see y'all in the next one.